Yeah, alrighty. So, welcome to the Double Double podcast. It's a podcast about whatever I want to talk about, and I have some cool people on the podcast. So, I'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Martin. My second name is unpronounceable for non-German speakers. So that's why my wife Sonia and me developed the artistic name Honey and Bunny.
Honey and
Honey and
Bunny.
Bunny is an artist duo which exists since 2003 in Vienna in Austria.
What brought you to Austria? How did you get your start out there?
We've both studied architecture, so we grew up in Austria. Sonia is
Oh,
purely Viennese, and I grew up in the quite close to the Iron Curtain, actually, close to the Czech Republic. And we both studied architecture in Vienna, and then we've moved to Japan for a while, and then we came back and we've opened a practice for architecture in Vienna, but we had a big interest in food. So we started to do research on food. So why the spaghetti looks like the spaghetti, or the fish finger is the fish finger, or the croissant is the croissant. And we found out that this period of time that there wasn't any publication about these questions, and we were young and ambitious. So we've started our own research and we wrote a book about it. And some years later, we stopped our architectural practice and we've started completely doing food design, eat art, performances, new books, photographs, videos, etc.
whoa. That's awesome. I got to hear your time in Japan. So, Japan's such a crazy, cool place. What parts in Japan were you visiting, and where did you really enjoy your time in Japan?
Well, we've used to live in Tokyo, so we've worked for an
Big
architectural
city.
atelier in Tokyo. We've traveled around a bit, so we've been to the very south to the island of Kyushu. We've been to Kyoto, of course, to Osaka, etc.
Hmm.
But I mean, our basis was Tokyo, and that's where we had our friends and our work. I would not say it's crazy, it's just different. And we've learned a lot. So I've learned, for example, that nothing is embarrassing because I did so many mistakes every day that I found out an embarrassing situation doesn't matter. I mean, who cares if you do a mistake? And we've learned the culture could be completely different, but by the end, the result is the same. So it works. And Japanese people are really nice because they constantly ask questions. So they asked us so much about European culture. And in many cases, we could not answer. So then we said, okay, we
Mm.
need to do research on that. So we had, for example, a question from a colleague in the office. He said, yeah, I was in a church on the weekend for my first time. And they gave me something to eat. What is it? And I said, it's bread. And he said, no, this is not bread. Bread is different. I know bread. Bread looks different, bread tastes different, bread has a different shape. What is it? I said, yes, it's we call it hostia and it should be bread. And then he said, yeah, but why is it round? Why is it circular? Why is it white? Why is it so small?
Mm.
Blah blah blah. And I could not answer. So I grew up in a Catholic country. I had to go to church when I was a kid every weekend. And I could not answer that question. And this was, in a way, strange for me. And we had many situations like that. People just ask, and we were like, oh, wow, we don't know. So why do we need eat with a knife and fork? Where is the fork coming from? Why do we have, I don't know, tables in that height? Why do we sit on
Mm.
chairs? Blah, 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 blah. And these questions were then quite interesting for us. So, and then we did a lot of research about these questions to find answers.
Whoa, that is pretty cool. What was your favorite food out in Japan? There's so many different foods
I
from Europe or the U Western foods.
I don't know. I mean, I do not have favorite foods because I mean I'm 51. I had so
Yeah.
many experiences and so many were really good, and I could not say that this was best.
What did you enjoy
Um,
out there? If you were
well,
hungry? You had a night out with some friends. What's your go-to meal?
I mean, for my opinion, there is no place on the planet where you get sushi like in Japan. It's absolutely impossible because you hardly find fish having that freshness, having that quality than in Japan. But basically, it's what I really admire is the knowledge behind it. So Japanese people have a way more knowledge about what they eat. So they know where the plants, fish, animals are coming from. They know the seasons. They know when to eat a tomato, a peach. They even know when to eat which fish. And when they go to a restaurant or when you are invited to somebody's house, they tell you, okay, we have the fish from this bay and the vegetables from here, and it's the season because of. And I mean, in westernized countries, we are completely disconnected from the
Mm,
producers of our food. And that's a shame. I mean, on one hand, I mean, it's work, it's love in a way. Uh, there is an idea behind it if there is a real farm doing it. And this was really, really important for us. So we've learned a lot about that. And they always have an idea about it. So they know where the shapes are from. They know the symbolic values of, I don't know, the wagashi, the small sweets they eat with the green tea. And that's that's quite inspiring actually. And that's for us it was important because I mean I did not know in a way. I mean, of course I knew it, but it didn't have any value for me anymore that tomatoes have a season. So in Tokyo, you can't find a tomato in winter. It's not
mm,
possible. And I mean, in Europe, you have it every day, everywhere. It's just coming from South Africa or from southern parts of Spain or I don't know where. But we do not know where our food is coming from. We have no idea where the slaves are working for us. We have no idea which pesticides are used, if it comes from a very big industrial complex or if it is a small farm somewhere. And the Japanese know that. Not everybody, but it's still a very important part of the culture. And this was very impressive for us. And this was very important for us by the end.
mm. Yeah, no, I really did appreciate seeing all the food. Like if you just go out to the countryside, you just see all the people farming outside of their houses, and you can even buy the food. They have like a little box that you can just put the coins in, and then you can take like the green onions or all the vegetables out there. So I really love how like Japan you can have all of those different aspects of it's very communal for the food systems.
Yeah, it's a completely different system, and of course to protect it. But for my opinion, it's a good idea because it also gives kind of security. I mean, there is food safety and food security behind it, and having a knowledge about what keeps you alive is not a bad idea, I would say.
Oh, definitely. That's pretty cool. But yeah, because like US, it's so different between the food systems, especially for like food. Like when I was working in Fiji, I did the Peace Corps in Fiji, and I was helping out with like the school lunches and stuff. And they would get like a big bowl or a big pot and make a bunch of food, whether it's like curry or some sort of like food made with actual like ingredients, whether it's cassava or rice or chicken. It's like and carrots. It's like real food. But if you go to the US, it's all like it's like pizza and milk, and that's like a meal in the for like a kid in the US. And everything is the only drink you have is milk. Like water is not even an option. It's pretty crazy what kind of food that they serve to you in the US. So there is a huge disconnect between food from kids like knowing what they're eating because we don't know what we're eating. It's just served and reheated in front of you. And yeah, it's very interesting. like I do follow a lot of channels like on YouTube about like food or like school lunches in different countries. It's fascinating. So like Japanese like lunches in the school for like different schools, um, Korean like food or like Taiwanese food. So it's very interesting seeing all the different food systems, even just for like school lunches.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's really, really important to think about it and to discuss it in the public. So it's a very important debate to wonder what do we eat. I mean, it's basically about health. And I mean, I had a discussion recently at the marketplace in France with somebody selling vegetables, and he said
Mhm.
that on one hand he wants to sell organic vegetables because he's touching it every day, and he
Mm,
doesn't want to touch toxic substances the entire day. And he says that there are so many wineries in France who change now to organic farming because the grandfathers and the fathers of today's generation, they die way too young. And most
oh,
probably they die because they have used too much pesticides or too many toxic substances. And they do not die, let's say, the nice way.
hmm.
So they suffer by the end of their lives. And then the nowadays generation, they want to live longer. So they avoid using these toxic substances because of themselves. And I do understand completely.
That is really interesting. I never really thought about the food, like touching the food from like a vendor standpoint. Mostly I think about it from like a consuming standpoint of just, oh yeah, it's more expensive, so most people avoid it because it's like organic. They put like an organic premium price on it compared to the regular stuff. So that's really interesting. Just seeing the whole supply chain and thinking about everybody who touches it, who's a part of it, to from the farmers picking it to the vendors selling it to the people consuming it. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we nowadays we discuss sometimes the suffering of slaves, and so they had a terrible life, but in a way, in a different way, it exists. So we have contemporary slaves. They get paid, and they are in a way free or not as much imprisoned as their ancestors, but they suffer violence in a different way, and the violence they suffer is that they need to handle chemicals all the days. So they work hard in plastic tents, plastic channels. They suffer heat, and they breathe pesticides the entire day. And they touch it. And I mean, when you touch something, then you swallow it because you lick
Mhm.
your fingers. I don't know, once in 10 minutes or something. I don't know how often, but you do.
You
So
end
you
up
you lick,
ingesting it.
yeah, and you are constantly in contact with pesticides. And for me, this is violence.
Definitely. Yeah. So as a designer, how would we create like a better world with like food systems and everything? Because I did really I took some notes on your on that video. It was playing with food. It was one of those it was that YouTube video. And you guys were talking about how like design is just like design is the image and expression of culture. It's innovative. It dictates how people like behave and how they move and how like internet interacts with like their lives. So I thought that was super interesting. If we could figure out a way to try and design a better food system, how would we figure this out?
Well, I mean, as designers, we have a big lever in our hand because we create something. We create systems, and basically design is the result of a lack of something. So something does not work or something does not exist. Or something works badly. And then designers come in and they start to find a solution. And if they do it in a good way, if they do it properly, by the end, they create, let's say, not just new objects, they create new habits because objects need to be used by the end. And the usage of an object is a habit. And of course, designers create desires. So and this is really, really powerful. So I do always say to our students that we are superheroes in a way. So we really we have the power to change. The big thing or the big question is just what is the goal? Is the goal to fulfill somebody else's needs, like making more money, for example, or creating a new branding or whatever? Or is the goal to change something which is where you see, let's say, a cultural need or a political need or a social need or a sustainable need. And I'm pretty sure that we can create, for example, or we can help to create new diets. We can help create more vegetarian or more plant-based diets by doing new aesthetics, by doing new goals, by creating narratives. And people everywhere are really addicted to narratives. So we love good stories. And designers do create good stories. So we want to hear, we want to read, we want to see a good story. And a good object tells you a story. So design, if it's edible, if it's a chair, if it's a car, if it's, I don't know, a Chanel dress, it always speaks to you. There is always a message in it. And what we do is not creating just a telephone or just cake or whatever. We create a story.
Mm.
And we need to understand the culture we are working for. So I've seen that so many times in my life that people design something and then they bring it to another culture and then they are completely depressed because people do not use it.
Hmm.
Because you need to understand a culture you want to work with. And cultures are different. So the Japanese culture is completely different to the Austrian culture. And I mean, I'm not that much into the US, but somebody told me that the culture in Texas is completely different to the culture in Illinois. And that's the same thing in Europe. Italy is different to Austria. And we need to understand Italy first before we go there and create a project for them. But if we are tolerant enough to accept what they need, and if we are tolerant enough to create a goal for them, not for us, then we can change the system there. Not the entire system, but I mean everything is like, yeah, is a droplet in a river, and that's that's our goal actually to say, okay, we don't give a fuck on let's say the classical design goals like making a company rich. We want to discuss what are the let's say the interesting goals for designers, and then we try to fulfill them. And we
Wow.
love provocation.
You
So
love what?
provocation,
Could you explain that? Provocation.
provocation. We love to provoke people to make them think differently about something. And
Mm.
that's another thing what design can do. So let people do something in a different way and they think different then about the object or they think different about life maybe. You just need to force them to do it once, to think once in a different way about something. And then they do. So they never forget.
Wow, that is pretty fun. What's the last thing that you provoked somebody to do?
I don't know. I mean, There are so many things. I mean, my favorite story about the last year is that the Minister for Agriculture of Austria did a speech, and there was a bed of soil in front of him on the floor, and it was completely covered with fruits and vegetables. And after 5 minutes, he was looking at it, and then it was like, there is somebody inside in the soil, and this was me. So I
Oh.
was It was just my face visible, so I was completely buried in the soil, and I did not say anything. It was just like the lecture was at the University for Agriculture, and we wanted him to understand that the soil is important at the University for Agriculture.
That's funny. Yeah, how did you also fuse like the art world with like food? I thought that was it's like that I've never really seen anything like that. How did you get into that?
Well, basically, humans sort whatever they find. And food-wise, it's really, really obvious. So we have hundreds of rules about ingredients, about combinations, about when we eat what, etc., etc. So we do not care about these rules. So the most famous ones are like the religious rules. So Muslims do not eat pork, Jews do not eat pork, Muslims eat halal, Jews eat kosher. Hindus normally do not eat meat at all. Christians do not eat horse, etc., etc. And these these rules are about sorting something. You say this is good and this is bad. This is dirty. This is clean. This is blah blah blah. You always say yes or no to anything you find, and we have way more plants and animals which are edible than we eat. But every culture on the planet has a system saying that these are the plants and animals which are okay for us. And normally they are a little bit different to the other group in the other village.
Hmm.
And the idea was for us at the beginning to say, okay, we just developed new sorting systems. So we do not care about taste or we do not care about origin. Now we do something just sorted by color.
Mm.
Just to make people think about the sorting system. And this was we did these circles made out of industrial food at the beginning and then fruits and vegetables. And we did massive buffets, for example. And then if you start sorting by color, for example, you bring sweet and salty together, or sweet and savory together. And for some people, this is really disgusting. And this is really, really interesting for us because if you take, for example, a cake and mustard and
Hmm.
you mix it, then you think both ingredients are destroyed and you throw them away. But both the cake and the mustard are edible, and there is nothing dangerous or unsafe or whatever when you eat cake with mustard. It's just a cultural rule saying that we should not combine it because it's disgusting. And this is interesting. And this was for us the beginning that okay, we mix everything up and make these rules about food visible. Because this brings me back to the idea of design goals. If you make rules visible and if you do it, let's say, in a funny way, or if you use soft irony and then make people smile at the beginning, then it's easier for them to think about it. So it's smoking causes cancer is boring. So nobody cares about it. Uh, do not eat meat because it's boring. Nobody cares about it. But if you find another story, if you find something about it, if you make people think in a different way about these rules or these conventions, then they are willing to think about solutions or new ideas. And this is why we sort food in a different way. And the second part is that food is the most emotional material imaginable. So do something with food and do it in a rather aesthetic way. Everybody who passes by will stop. Everybody is staring at your work. Everybody wants to know, what are you doing here? And it's really, really ridiculous in Europe that our vegetable markets became one of the most important tourist attraction for American tourists. That's really, really funny. So from the Crusaders, the people come and they look at fresh fruits and vegetables on a normal market stand. For Europeans, this is just a way of shopping.
Mhm.
And it got an attraction. So what is an attraction if you see fresh raspberries, strawberries, tomatoes, whatever? It's just an edible product. But what I do understand is that it attracts you anyhow. So if I go as a consumer to the market, I'm satisfied too because I see this and it really it creates good emotion. And this is something we really use when we do performances or installations. So we bring people into a good mood just by using food. So people look at arrangements of fruits and vegetables or cakes or whatever, and then they feel better just by looking at it. And then they are open to new contents. And the third aspect is, and I'm coming back to the rules. Everything has rules, especially if it comes to eating. If you break the rules or if you let people break the rules, then they cross a border because normally they do not do it. So if you let, for example, eat people with their fingers, or if you let people dig out something from soil,
Mhm.
and if they cross the border together, they create a community which did not exist before. And this very moment of community building smashes on one hand hierarchies, so you can't separate, let's say, the sheriff from the housewife anymore. And this is the moment people feel really peaceful and they are like willing to talk to each other on an equal level. So this is just for I don't know, 5 minutes or something. But if you use this, you can bring in new contents and you can create serious discussions about issues which are important. And that's why we use the interactive power of food because it creates a community, it let people think in a different way, you have a positive mood, and then you say, okay, and now we talk about sustainability, or now we talk about, I don't know, slavery or dignity or whatever. And then it works.
Oh, that's a lot to take in. That's really cool though. Especially like crossing the border together uh with the food, especially if you're going to like a new culture. Like when I went to Fiji, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really do too much research when I went. I wanted to just go out there and really take it in when I got there. And then everything was sitting down and we were eating with our hands and I was like, this is really cool. And you're just hanging out with everybody, learning just how to do anything. So yeah, like going to a new culture is really interesting. When was you like when you were growing up and you finally were exploring the world? What was like one area or like what was like the first like cultural like shock that you had when you were growing up?
My first cultural shock came when I was 3 years old.
Whoa.
I grew up in a very, very big family on the very countryside. And I really remember that I started to think, why? is every man in my family so aggressive against my grandmother. And
Whoa.
my grandmother was the nicest person I've ever met. So she was patient, she took care about everybody, she was listening, she was she never tried to convince you with, so she was super tolerant and super helpful. And yeah, my grandmother, I mean, I was really shocked by the fact that nobody reacted to my grandmother's behavior in a proper, in a normal, in a human way. And I was just asking myself when I was 3 years old, what is a man? So what is my role as a man in society? And during my entire youth, I had some problems with this role of saying, okay, why is a man aggressive? Why does a man not accept a woman? Why should a woman be second class? Why do we think that women need to work for men, etc., etc.? And this was very, very strange for me, and this was quite shocking. And the second very important point of my youth was when I found out that I'm not alone with doubt. And for my opinion, doubt is a human right. And this was when I began to read literature, and I found out that there are so many other people in human history, like Shakespeare, etc., and they had similar doubts to me. So in a way, art rescued my life. And then I decided, okay, if art means doubt, I need to go to an art school. And at the art school then, and in Vienna, I've learned that there is also a man's world which lives tolerance, which does not think that women are second class, etc., etc. But during our entire career, this was really, really important. And that's why, this is another reason why we did this research about, let's say, very daily uh, objects and habits. So we understand the house, the apartment, the oikos, if we say it in a Greek way, as a very political space. So how people act and react at home means who they are. So are they tolerant or not? What they think about equality, about hierarchy, about racism, about sustainability, etc.? You find everything at home. And that's why we deal with food, with cleaning, with hygiene, etc., because it tells everything actually about somebody.
Wow. Never really thought about it like that. So everything comes down to like the home base or all the all the systems at home. Well, that's really interesting. So how would you design like a good home for like people to grow up? Because it's so interconnected. Like like all the food that you eat, everything that you are taught at home that reflects you as a person when you get older and how you live your life. So I mean, there's no right answer to like designing like the perfect home, but let's say somebody wants to make a change in their home. What's like one thing that they can do? Something small. I mean, not like buy this specific item, just like,
Well, I can't answer that question because you are in Florida and I'm in Vienna and I have no clue about the home in Florida actually, and it's not my right to comment life in Florida or in the US. I mean, what we do is we try to understand how we live and we try to understand what we use. We try to avoid food waste. We try to understand the kitchen, for example, as a central space in our apartment. We try to understand the dining table as a central space of family life, not just for Christmas, but every day. Um, I try to avoid as much as possible using digital devices. But on the other hand, I mean, I'm living in a very dense, very old-fashioned city, and it's easy to say something because I mean, when I want to, I go out. I can walk to every every place I want to here in Vienna, and this is just because it's not far
Hmm.
and it's safe. I go to the coffee house when I want to go to the coffee house, and it's just 10 minutes walking. I go to the marketplace and buy some vegetables because it's just 10 minutes walking. And I'm not living in the very city center. It's just this kind of European urbanism. And we understand, let's say, public space in a very different way. And for me personally, it's a very good way to say, okay, I want to communicate with other people. Um, and I mean, of course, it's very good that we have this technology right now to talk to each other, even though there are, I don't know how many thousand kilometers between us, but I would prefer talking to you personally, and this is actually the chance I have here. On the other hand, for us, it's really, really good to invite people to our place to say, okay, we have an open house, and so other people bring other ideas. But by the end, I mean, it's not possible to say, or it is, but I'm not a big fan of the consequent utopia. Like we need to revolutionize everything, like modernists did. So I think it would be too hard for me to say everything is now in a different way. And I have a kitchen, I have my pots, I have my knives, I have I don't know, we have a bathroom. Uh, but the question by the end is how do we live with each other and how open are the spaces or not? But anything else, I mean, I design my furniture because I'm a cabinet maker. I'm a furniture designer by training. I can do it, and I design it how I like them, and then I let them build. So it's based to the apartment you see.
Whoa, that's cool. So you make your own furniture.
Yes,
That's such an interesting thing. Wow.
yeah, I can. So,
What kind of materials do you like to work with? Like how what makes a material a homey and something that you like?
well, I mean, I'm a fan of woods, so I like I love dark woods. I love textiles, so I love structures. I'm not a fan of glossy surfaces, but this is just me.
Hmm.
Uh, I do not like cold surfaces, but I'm not a fan of plastic, so
Yeah, same here.
I don't I don't like it. But I mean, it's like everything. I mean, it's if you're an architect and you go to a place, you need to let your building fit into the place. And if I live like here, I mean, I live in an Art Deco house, so it's 120 years old, and
Mm.
whatever I design as a furniture needs to fit into this house. This it doesn't necessarily mean that the furniture I do is Art Deco, not at all. But so it's our style, but it's by the end we try to fit it into this house. So we are not in California. We do not have a huge terrace and a pool and palm trees or in
Yeah,
Florida. So it's not possible. So we need to have different ways of make an apartment comfortable.
yeah, that's true. Because when you go to different areas, all of those areas are adapted, or all the homes are
Yes.
adapted to the specific areas. Like, um, I don't know. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes the world interesting. So you can get different inspirations from other areas. So.
Yes, I mean you can try to get inspired, but I mean I love Japan, but I would not want to have a tatami room here in Vienna. I mean it would be strange for me having it here, but if I go to Japan, I try to sleep at least one night in a tatami room because I really love it. But
Hmm.
this is, I mean, it's there. But on the other hand, I can try to get inspired and say, okay, how does these sliding door systems, for example, work in Japan, and how can I integrate it in a different design to our apartment? How can I work with it? And that's it.
Mm, that is pretty cool. I mean, I love the tatami rooms too, where you just sleep on the floor and have it's like the cloth beds and the cloth like blankets and everything. So yeah, I think or let's do one last question. So for like ethics as a designer, um, what does that look like? Like you're working with a bunch of young designers and they're asked to make something and it has to be good. Like how do you create something that like benefits the world and is useful, but also doesn't hurt like or like harm anybody?
Well, I mean, it's the decision of everybody. I do not want to train people to over ethical persons. Of course, people who think ethically are more interesting for me than others, but everybody has strengths or weaks, but I mean, basically what I want to see in a design process is research, 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 and don't give a fuck. This is really important. What I want to see is at least some kind of tolerance. And what I do not like in the design world is that the major design events, for example, these are Prosecco events for white European people in the most expensive cities in Europe.
Mhm.
And the entire global south is not even there. So we ignore completely what designers in Brazil, in Ghana, in Thailand, in India do. So there are some conferences where they have at least a stage, but they are completely ignored. So what I would like to see from a designer is an openness towards the entire design world, not just to the high glossy magazines and websites and Instagram channels presenting always the same things by the same European and American designers. This is a little bit boring for me.
Mhm.
But the ethical question is something everybody should answer him or herself. I mean, it's there could be so many. I mean, if you have a background and the background says that you need to earn money, at least for the first 10 years, then you should do that. I mean, why should you get into trouble just because you want to be an ethical person and by the end you are ruined? So I was lucky because Sonia maybe we decided together to go that way, and finally it worked out. But we were lucky. I mean, it's good for me if young people decide for themselves to say, okay, we have different goals. And I think an NGO as a client or an NGO as, or let's say a company having interesting goals is better than a company just doing some fossil things. But I think that by the end, also the job is way more interesting and way more inspiring and funnier than doing the 365th logo for a big company. So it's, or the, I don't know, billionth office chair, which looks the same as hundreds of thousands before. But I mean, yes, it's it's a question everybody should ask him or herself. And but I do not comment and I do not care about somebody's decision because I do not know anything about the background.
Yeah, so to consider their whole thing before making that judgment.
Yes.
Well, it's almost time. So if there's any last things that you wanna say,
I think I think for me it's good. Thank
it's
you.
good. Yeah. Yeah, and I had a lot of fun. So thanks again for taking the time to do the podcast and everything.
Thank
So
you.
let's take a photo first. I have my camera here. I'll be taking it on let me fix some of the settings. This will be the this will be the thumbnail. Three, two, one. Alrighty.
Cool. Yeah, it's already dark here. So
Yeah, you said you needed to be out by 15,
yeah,
so that's why I had to give you some more cushion time.
yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah. Well, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait. I will have to try and make my way out there to Vienna. It'll be really fun. I've never been there before, but um I've been to Brussels and I've been to Germany for a very short amount of time, and it was fascinating. So I want to explore more of that area and probably do some more backpacking stuff. I'll do what you did instead of the US. I'll do a Europe version.
Yeah, but in Europe it's easier to do it by train.
Yeah, the train
So
system's a little bit better than the US, but
yeah,
oh.
and we have this ticket, you can travel around for a week or 2 weeks. So there is
Mm.
this Eurail ticket, which is really, really nice for young people.
Oh, I'd love that. So, well, yeah, definitely. I'll keep in touch with you because your work and photos and YouTube videos are really fascinating. So it just gets you thinking
Thank you.
in a different way. So it's super cool. It's good stuff. So yeah,
Thank you very much. I wish you all the best.
yeah, I'll keep in touch with you. So okay,
Let's do so.
bye
Thank you so
bye.
much. Bye bye.
Thank you.